An exciting day.
An exciting day, and to have on our 22nd edition, an advocate, all right, a foremost youth advocate and coach in your presence. Please, can you throw in some light as to this whole barrage about youth or even the skills day?
Yeah, so like I always say, if you look at it, the Youth Day is actually an ILO initiative, to ensure that the disadvantaged across nations or the world is able to get engaged productively. It is estimated that over 70 million youth population of the world are still not engaged properly. So the World Youth Skills Day is a day to target at policymakers, employers, the youth themselves, teachers, schools, and organizations as well as NGOs that can help trump the conversation around deliberate actions to enhance youth engagement. If I could go further, we understand that the issue of violence and crisis in the society is actually as a result of disengaged youth. Just like we have engaged employees and non-engaged employees. If you have disengaged youth or citizens, you should know that they should look for something to engage themselves in. And by that, they go into things that are vices that are inimical to progress. So the World Youth Skills Day is actually a day to reframe how we approach preparing the youth for the future of work.
Wow, how we approach the youth for the future of work. And, and I just love how that landed, and I think we're going to be inviting you to talk about that at some other episode. But zooming into the theme for the World Youth Day, Skills Day, there's a call as to there's this need for reevaluation of the roles of youth, all right, in this time post the pandemic.
Yes.
And a lot of things happened. We believe the pandemic is over, but yes, things are happening and still shifting.
Yeah.
However, we also realize that the pandemic led to a lot of deficiencies. Okay, and it's important now that we address some of these deficiencies to enable our youth to be able to adequately fit in post the pandemic. What are your solutions to that, whilst we go on this talk?
So like I said, the future of work, when we say the future of work, it also has to do with post-pandemic. Now the way we do things, collaboration and all that has changed. Before now, I needed to fly to Abuja for you and I to be in the same room and gather a team to talk. But now we can comfortably sit somewhere in another location different from your office, and I sit here in Lagos, and we're able to have a productive and structured conversation that makes and adds value. So if you look at it, it's about this kind of framework that has evolved now that we see how can the youths be participating in it to create value and make themselves relevant. And so the new skills available, the World Skills Day, was set up to just help the youth to understand that, look, at every point in time, what skills do I need aside my education? Like I was telling you a few days ago, you ask a lot of our youth, what are your skills? And the person will tell you, I studied mass communication. So my solution is a deliberate act into engaging the youth in capacity building. Not just the fact that you've gone to university, but let's deliberately get into a conversation to say, look, within you are your talents, where strengths come in now, and then within you are still the ability to hone some new skills in either technical or vocational initiatives or technology that will help you to remain relevant in the scheme of things post the pandemic. So if we just sit down and wait for the schools to do it alone, it's not going to work. And so there's a deliberate need, just like we're having this conversation now, it will prompt some people to start thinking differently, especially youth, to say, look, what are they even saying about skills? And even go to Google to go and understand the difference between my educational certificate and the skills they're talking about. They are way apart, even though there's an integration, but then your certificate is not your skill.
And you know, I just love what you said. Your certificate is not your skill.
Network.
And that takes me even to the crux of the discussion series. Now, Mr. George, you're a Gallup certified strength coach. I've had instances where what comes first, skills or strengths? Okay, skills or strengths. Using your insights, okay, as a certified Gallup strength coach, can you please throw more light? You know, because we know today is World Skills Day, World Youth Skills Day. But can we also understand where does strength play in? All right.
So
take it up.
Strength is not an end to a means or a means to an end. It's an integration of your skills with strength that gives you greater value. So there's knowledge. Knowledge in sometimes, you know, sharpens your skills. So even your strength also sharpens your skills in terms of how do I apply myself to use this skill to achieve my desired goal. There's an end goal that you want. You know, it's not just about what outcome are you targeting, you know, to achieve. And so with that in mind, you start saying, what do I have in me aside my technical know-how or that thing that my hand can do, and how can I approach it? If you start giving example of, you know, the strengths now, like my own top 5, positivity, ideation, adaptability, and communication. I can say, you know, this is an opportunity here now for me to talk. I need to hone the skills to be able to present my ideas. But now having the strength, communication as a strength in me, and then, you know, makes it easier for me to apply myself into how I relate to you or present this conversation to you in a digital form, and in this form may not be the same as how I need to deliver it to make impact in a hall.
I hear you. Sorry, and let me I see you are flowing in a line of thought.
Yeah.
So I realize that there are some strengths.
You're hanging.
That somehow also look some strengths that which cannot be learned.
Yeah.
So
sorry, come again.
On your journey,
you're short.
Yes.
You cut off.
Yeah, I said so. There are some strengths that are like skills.
Yeah.
But strengths are actually inbuilt. They are wired within us.
Yes.
Now, can you please throw more?
Hey, you've cut off again.
Light as to how your journey of strength. How your journey of strength?
How my own journey of strength started.
Yes, please.
Oh, now, like I tell people, certain things are already innate in us. If you look at, I got introduced to strength in 2017, and if you look at my posts from the time I joined Facebook around 2005 up to 2017, when I finally got introduced to strength, you'll see that my posts had always been around a positive life, about how, I used to post quotes from, Steve Covey and, a few people to say, how do we make impacts? So when I got to, get introduced to strength, I realized that, look, this already was in me. I just didn't know it. This is what is like taking a scale out of your eyes. And so in 2017, just some leadership program in my former place of work, and I took this assessment. I didn't even know what it was, but it came with a wow moment for me because after that, and I realized that I showed it to my manager, my former boss, my wife, and everybody said, man, this thing is like a wizard. Just this is talking about you. And for me, I took it on and said, okay, let's even go to the class. Was in South Africa. It's not like now that you can do it, digitally. So we flew to South Africa to have the session. And after the session, on our way back to Nigeria, I felt like, some of the issues we have in our country, and I'll say this now, our challenge, like we keep talking about unemployment, is not so much about unemployment, but unemployability and underemployment.
Whoa.
Because a lot of our people do not even know that in them are imbued, talents that, if honed, can make them better productive.
So please say that again.
Sorry?
Can you say that again? You said the problem is not unemployment.
It's not more of unemployment, but underemployment and unemployability. Because a lot of our people do not even know that they have in them talents that can be honed, like sharpening a knife, and then apply it into, being productive to do certain things. And so a lot of times we just are looking like we don't have what, to do to make things happen. Now, road rage, for example, I realized that a lot of the road rage that we have, especially on Monday morning, people are unhappy, going to a job, you are complaining about it. And so it got me thinking that, look, is it possible that if I understand how best to use what I already have to make what I'm doing better done and better outcome, could it make me more fulfilled and all that? And that's how I went to go certify and all that. But then it was in that process that I was able to coin out my own personal purpose, which is unleash potentials of young adults to evolve a more productive society. It's, waking up at 2 a.m. at whatever time, I am able to say it out like this. And that's why I believe in purpose living. It was strength that brought me to that point. And, I was already an elder in his 40s to be able to come and start talking that. You understand? Unlike for some people. So, and that is why I feel like if we start early with our youths and teenagers, it is easier for them to evolve into a society and have better values than the rest of us who were just not with the right compass. Some of us were lucky to turn out the way we are by, providence. But there are a lot of people who are dropping down the lane because there's no compass for them.
I hear you, sir. I hear you. And you said something that was quite profound.
You're breaking again.
So your discover your. So your wiring has further equipped you to develop or discover your purpose.
Yes.
And in that wise, you've started to develop skills. I'm seeing the tie-in. So once you understand yourself, so thy own self be true.
Yes.
You get into that point. Yes, you get to that point where you also can start to have an understanding of your purpose. Now, and let me take this. So there's the purpose of the maker for us, and this is not, a Christian.
No, it's not just preaching.
No, but we're saying that your understanding of your strength, helps you to understand or have an inkling as to your purpose. Yes. But with an inkling of your purpose, you can set your vision based on what you can see at every point in time. Okay? But you require a strategy to be able to achieve that vision.
Thank you.
And in achieving that vision, you also need to develop some skills. Amazing.
And let me correct something. You see, some employers here may misunderstand us. Your purpose does not need to be your current job.
Tell me about that.
Yeah. Fortunately for me, working in in a multinational
blue chip companies, and all of that.
No, a particular one.
Okay.
Now most companies are thinking of purpose-driven, solutions. That means, you're a company that lives on purpose. So that is how they encourage employees to be better, engaged by looking out for their own personal purpose and how it could tie into what they are currently doing. So so you could be in where I am and still be a coach. So I was a brand manager, but I was still coaching on the side as a Gallup certified strength coach. And my manager and my bosses all knew about it. and it makes me happy and makes me better. So let's not mix it that because I'm a farmer today and I heard George say, your purpose is communication, you abandon your farm. There's still a way that you can communicate even in your farm.
I hear you. And for us at Strength Africa, we have a methodology that is poised around chasing your or claiming, an extraordinary life. And we have been able to classify 3 key areas. So there's the personal life, okay? Or we've been able to delineate it into 3. The personal life, then the purpose, the profit or career focused life, and then there's the purpose journey. Now, there has to be a balance. You can't keep saying you're doing purpose.
Yes.
And you now negate profit, or career.
Yes.
Because the career is like a stepping stone, is a means to that end of your purpose journey. Because where do you garner experience from now? Where do you garner exposure from? Where do you garner education from? It's from your career. It's from your profiting. It's from your business. Okay? Yeah. And that helps you to be able to deliver your message succinctly to your purpose, all right? Or the purpose target audience. So I hear you very well. And that's quite ingenious of you to be able to handle and juggle those roles while acting as a brand manager, at the same time also innately fulfilling your purpose as a coach, as the case may be. So, Mr. George, your discovery of your strengths, and I like us to talk around. And so, guys, if you're joining us for the first time, this is the Strength Discussion Series. And we're here every Thursday. Today is the 22nd edition. And this is a special edition because it's the World Youth Skills Day. And coincidentally also, by some sovereign summons of the Almighty or happenstance, we have also a youth advocate and coach in person of Mr. George Enema. So we've been brewing on this thought as to skills, as to youth and development and growth. We're also talking about strengths. So please join in. If you have any questions or you want to contribute, you could raise up your hand and the technical team will bring you on board. Thank you, Mr. George. So now I understand that with every ability, there is either a response or a reaction. Now, and when the purpose of a thing is not known, is subject to misuse. So you discovered your strengths. In discovering your strengths, can you please help us identify the top 5 strengths and how you have been able to use these strengths, one strength at a time, to be able to deal with some of those daily hassles or challenges, and you've been able to turn them into opportunities that have kind of helped you in your journey through life?
Okay, so I'm high on influencing.
Okay.
And around that, am I winning others over the strengths or talented?
Absolutely.
I'm also very strong with positivity. So my who, for example, makes it easy for me to engage with people and get them to want to do things for me. So at certain roles where there's a hurdle, and that person who, is able to communicate, our goal and the needs for the time with stakeholders. So stakeholder management is one strong part where I've been able to use my strengths. And then sometimes, subordinates looking like everything is, going down for them. I try to bring my enthusiasm, even though sometimes they say the positivity and your enthusiasm look like naivety.
I lost you there. Okay. I don't know if it's from my end or from his end, but we are live here at the Strength Africa Annex studio somewhere in Abuja by virtue of some engagement, so we're not able to report there. Okay, whilst we wait for Mr. George to reconnect, I'd like to read something about the future of work. And so the world of work is in a constant state of uncertainty, meaning that the skills needed to be highly successful today may not be significant 2 to 3 years from now. New skills are emerging, while some of the skills we have learned are on the decline side. Therefore, the World Economic Forum predicts that 42% of the core skills required to perform existing jobs will change in the next couple of years. It has been predicted that there will be an intense change in the next decade. The pace of technology advancement is expected to remain unabated and may accelerate in some areas, including the use of robots and artificial intelligence. The report says that most businesses, that is about 84%, plan to accelerate the digitalization of work processes and the use of digital tools, such as video conferencing in response to COVID-19. However, half of the businesses surveyed plan to accelerate the automation of these tasks. So what happens? By 2025, the report estimates that the time spent on current tasks at work by humans and machines will be equal. Well, there's still hope. So if you continue to learn and adapt, you'll begin to see that certain skills must be developed. Whilst we wait for Mr. George,
sorry, my network went off.
Yeah, we noticed. So we read something about the World Economic Forum, talking about the skills that are required, and that the skills of yesterday might no longer be relevant.
Thank you.
For the skill for tomorrow, and that at some point there will be some kind of matching with machine and man. So those things that you think is work right now.
You broke. I didn't hear you.
Yes. So those things you think that are work right now, they are no longer going to be in the future. Might not be work. It might just be a normal routine, which will be performed by.
What did you say?
Yeah, I said the kind of work for today, the skills you use today, might no longer be relevant because they will just become the simple task a machine is able to do, and it will do it better and quicker. Okay, so with this, I'm bearing with, and so you were, before we left, we lost you at that point. You were talking about your strength. So you talked about woo. I think woo is your first strength. Yeah. That's winning others over. What's the second strength?
Yeah.
Your second strength is what? In order of the top 5.
Positivity.
Yeah. So you have positivity as the second of your strength. So how do you use positivity in the midst of crisis and challenges? Tell us just a minute on that, and then we'll roll on to the other strengths.
So like I said, a lot of times people will think that, things are going wrong. Because of my, positivity is very much about very high enthusiasm, a positive energy to apply to things. So when everybody is feeling like the world is over, you are able to come upbeat to say, look, all we need is find ways to solve the situation. And that has happened many times where, things are looking very gloomy. And then somebody said to me that, George, I like the way you react when things don't go well for you. You
respond, right?
Yeah, you can
respond instead of react.
Instead of react. So it's as if I've been planning it. Whereas it's not like I was planning it. It was just that, I'm able to adjust, and put a positive mindset towards it to say, look, because I believe that worry is just like a swinging chair that moves you to nowhere.
I love that. It's like a swinging chair that takes you nowhere.
It takes you nowhere.
Why worry?
So the best thing is get up and get on it and just get by. Do you understand? And so
keep on moving. Don't stop.
Yes, strength is beyond you just knowing your innate talents. It's about you living it.
Correct. You living your strength.
You living it. The thing is self-awareness. is key, and that's why part of what the world skills youth skills day talks about is youth personal awareness, letting the youth understand
technology.
Yes, letting the youth know who they really are and how best to go with it. Like you said, the future of work is changing. Even currently with AI, a lot is changing. As a brand manager those days, we used to tell ourselves that very soon somebody will sit down in India and manage a brand in Nigeria without having to be in Nigeria, and it's already happening. So as a youth, yes, as a youth, what are you doing to prepare yourself for such a time and remain relevant? So it's gone beyond I'm able to carry the cement and put on my head. Now, what do you make of that cement?
Let me crack a joke, all right? And this is real. And so there were some skills then called shorthand or typing,
Yes.
And back in those days when you got to the post office in Lagos, you had people that their trade was to type, and you also had secretaries that took notes,
Yes,
and
they were
that
kings.
was like they were kings. They were kings. Yeah. It was almost like, but look at how just in a few years under our very noses, all right, that just disappeared.
I'll give you a recent example. As of 2007, I had predicted that tellers were not going to be on the floors of the bank anymore. And I told a few of the people I knew that if you're a teller or a call center operator, you must learn a skill that will make you relevant as the world is evolving. Today, as I speak with you, you can be calling British Airways and the machine answering you is in India. Do you understand?
Absolutely.
And
yes.
So that is why we need to be deliberate. So when I say youth unemployment is majorly around, people
unemployability
and not being able to fit in. So you need now to be deliberate because they are in school there reading. And I would like to use some of the issues we have is actually from the curriculum that we have. As at 2010, the curriculum in the computer science department of the Nigerian Universities Commission was 25 years. Today, this is about how many years after that? 11 years.
Wow.
2010. This about 11 years. 11 plus 25, that's 36 years. And then you teach the same child in that same curriculum and expect that child to come and compete in this era of artificial intelligence and all. So you require deliberate actions for capacity building, which is why the World Youth Skills Day is important. And I don't think we celebrate it or mark it or talk about it so much. And I want to give kudos to Stress Africa for bringing that day to the burner.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. I love what you've said, Mr. George. And one of the things that's also instructive that we're doing is that, and we didn't have this discussion before now, but the way you've narrowed the or Teachers Reinvention Conference coming up on the 5th to the 7th of October.
Yeah,
is to commemorate the World Teachers Day. But that's not just it. We've started a build-up of activities towards that event. So on the 24th of July, there's the first module, which is centered on the individual discovering themselves. They are tuning their mindsets and getting ready to play their critical role. Then we talked about the elements around, sorry about that. We moved around the elements around influencing, all right? The teacher is an influencer. And then we talked about the role of empowerment for teachers. But, something that was instructive, and I started to ask myself, you see, I know it might take a while for us to be able to change the curriculum, but there's something that we can start to change immediately, is to change the orientation of our teachers. So one of the things that happened is that we did a cross survey of countries that have advanced, okay, and have differentiated themselves along the lines of, the academia. One of them is Singapore. Another of those countries is Finland, and then we also have Japan. We have the South African Ubuntu model, and the rest of them. Now, one of the things that distinguishes all of this, a common denominator, I must say, to all of these educational systems is around values. Okay, yes. Is around compassion, is around empathy, is around respect, which somehow we have all thrown away. Yes. It talks about dignity in labor, as the case may be. So I know that there's a call for a change in curriculum, but can we even start to have an attitudinal change? Can it also be driven by the values? And I know you are strong when it comes to issues around the nuances and the stereotypes that pervade our land. So can we even zero into what are these issues, or they are materialistic, instead of providing or creating value, where people are driven by impatience instead of enjoying and pushing things through. Can you throw more light on that, sir?
So you see, because of who you are is actually is influenced by your environment and your experiences in a great deal. Now, and there's a talent thing called competitiveness. Competitive in the Gallup team's ranking. Yes. And I won't lie to you, while it is very strong and positive, there's also a basement theory for it where it is on the wrong side. Do you understand? Now, and by that I mean, yeah. So the reason sometimes I push for my children to go to a Montessori school is because I want to dial down that competitive spirit, so that each person will know that we are unique in our ways and may not be the same. So I cannot think and value things the same way you will. I cannot solve maths the same way you can solve. And you may not be able to solve science the same way I will solve. And so it is best for us to understand that the future is more about collaboration than competition. So, yeah. So when that wiring has been imbued in us, and then I won't lie to you also, some of the issues we have is that we're competitive from our education system. We've been wired to feel like I must be ahead of everybody. And so that already makes me want to pull the other down so that I can be ahead. And that's the part of what is driving. Some people do not believe me when I say it, but how do I call it? The extreme accumulation of things that we crave for is actually driven by our survival and competitive wiring. So if you look at over time, we as a people want just to survive. Look at the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You start a buffet here today, you see competition. Nigerians will work as much as they cannot finish. So you see waste. You see somebody stealing the money that you hear that his 10th generation cannot do. So if you look at it, those nuances that you see are actually driven by some underlying issues. And until you go to reframe the minds to see that, look, we can have a better and equitable society without us competing on who would use the best car to the village. And then some of us, because of the infrastructural challenges, I don't want to go into all this because we won't have time. But I've said it to you many times that the bad road is also a reason for me to want to drive an SUV. And that influences how I want to cut corners to get the SUV. These are nuances. Do you understand? That our reality. But if we start with a reframing of mind that there are greater value in life, higher than just me being able to show up with an SUV as being ahead of my classmates, then maybe our youth will start seeing the reason to solve issues in society rather than looking for ways for crime to make more money to drive the SUV. So there's an interconnectivity and underlying forces that needs to be addressed. So like I was saying about Montessori, like we're going to engage the teachers, we need to start dialing down the issue of this child is not good in math, the other child is not good in this. It doesn't help. And so what I've done, and I'm happy for what you're doing, is that every school I've taken my children to, I make it a duty to go and train the teachers. Talk to them about strengths and about this dialing down. I start with the proprietaries. The last school my children were, I did a strength training for them, and they all now use their innate talents. I made them understand their top 5 with this series of sessions, because I wanted to protect my own children. Because part of why I went to certify for strength wasn't even really to make it economical, but I wanted a situation where if nobody benefits, my children should think differently. And that's why I take them to certain classes I go to. Before COVID, if I have an opportunity to go talk, I'll take my girls there. They will sit in and listen, and I'll come home and start asking me questions. So we need to start, there's a need to start reframing the minds of our people, because until we have that, the nuances will continue. We will not understand the power of our differences as an Igbo man, Igbo man, Hausa man, Yoruba man. Each person has a value they bring to the table, or the Igala man like I am, or he fed a Yoruba girl from Kogi State in my own state. So you need to start understanding how, if we prepare jollof rice, I've told you this before, jollof rice has different spices, different taste, different aroma. That is the beauty of jollof rice that we celebrate. Why can't Nigeria get to the point where we understand that each of us is different in our own ways and come with different elements to make the soup sweet? So when you talk about nuances, this is what I talk when I say, look, strength is so encompassing that if you open it, it's like, you said it the other day, like onion. As you're peeling it, it's unveiling. So even in tribes, for you to say, look, the Yoruba man likes oil, so what? Do you understand? The Igbo man likes money, who doesn't like money? So let's start looking at the positive, and the strength principle says, let's start focusing on what will happen if we focus on what is strong rather than what is wrong with people. Are you strong?
Wow.
You understand?
Go ahead.
What will happen if we start focusing on what is strong?
What is right?
What is right to people? Yes. Do you understand? Instead of us just looking at this person,
the negatives.
The negatives. And that is where the National Orientation Agency comes in. We need to start deliberate action. So when we say youth, for us adults, we are caught in our ways. It may not be easy for us to, change our ways. But the youth, these youth skills, while you are building the youths with the skills, you need to give them the right frame of mind, a reframing of mind to ensure that we evolve a more productive and engaged citizenry.
Wow, that's fantastic. And let's just pause on that, because you've thrown us into a whole lot of discussions around some of the battling issues, all right, that plague our land, indeed our continent. And that immediately took me to some book I started to read, and I had to drop the book at some point because I just felt that maybe this book is going to toy with my entire fabric. All right. Now that the book is the journey man has gone through, and you see, until man moves away from that survival of the fittest, which was akin to the men of old, the Stone Age, and begins to understand that there are other things to do other than just feeding to eat.
Thank you.
You see, we're back in that stage, particularly in Africa. You see what's happening in South Africa, the plundering of a store in Johannesburg, in Durban. I spoke to the senior special advisor to the president of South Africa yesterday, and she was saying, look, this is alarming, but it has a political undertone. Why? A president, for courts, and some people took advantage of that and created an unhealthy relationship to kickstart this. But that's not what I'm even talking about. I'm talking about that this survival mentality. We must transit from that, trying to just keep hunting, okay, to the point where we can domesticate, we begin to live with one another, to begin to, have a complete state of well-being, other than the inordinate pursuit of wealth.
The line is off again.
And you said something, your skill, instantly we have a discovery of our strengths. We must be able to develop these strengths, all right? Yeah. And in developing and deploying these strengths, we must use the right schools, right skills at time.
So your line is still stopped.
Okay, so Mr. George, you talked about the winning, and then you talked about positivity. Do you want to throw any more light as to some of the strengths that you have and that you have been able to apply yourself?
So,
to the extent that it has helped you on, Mr. George is still for now.
Yeah. So, can you hear me now? It was
I
good
can hear you.
So, okay. I'll talk about my belief. Belief is number 6 for me. And belief is such that, how I live, I discover that it's strong in me is because I'm most times, like you said now, that I'm strong on nuances about what virtues or dreams that you have about, society and yourself, So me, for example, I'll be thinking that if I take a position, I feel like, I need to stand on that position. It took me time to start withdrawing from, especially political discourses, because when I take a stand, I feel like, belief makes you think like the road is straight. That's at the basement.
That's the basement.
That's the basement.
An overdrive.
So I need to consciously tap into my positivity and, to understand that, look, sometimes, you may not be able to be in the position of the other person and expect to be in that person's mind. That is the reframing of mind now. So your energy, your positivity shouldn't dampen the person's own, how do I call it? A high dose of it shouldn't dampen the other person's own position that could come from how they interpret issues. Because our talents actually, influence how we most times relate or respond to issues. Sometimes it just, starts giving you your idea. And then when you don't even know it, you wouldn't know that, this one is on overdrive. So what has helped me is realize that at a certain point, I need to tone down, and listen better. If you're high on communicator, sometimes on the basement, you want to be the only one talking. Then you combine it with positivity, that your enthusiasm, you want to be heard about the positive things you have in mind or your ideation. So, but when you try to hone it down, and then you can now, don't be judgmental, because sometimes you get judgmental because people are not interpreting things in your own way. This is why that is why I think that we need to infuse it into almost everything that we do, and let people understand that the reason why the other person is preferring red is probably because of how he is wired. And his wiring is made up of his genetics, his experiences, his upbringing, his environment, all, which may not be same as yours. And that's why Yoruba people has a saying that 20 kids cannot be friends for 20 years.
20 years.
So we have a lot of sayings or principles in our society that, if thrown up and we are made to understand them, we will see reasons to collaborate better than compete, than look for ways to drag each other down. And then finally, talking about South Africa and even Nigeria, if those youths were productively engaged, they won't be a tool for any political use. So there is a root issue that needs to be addressed. So instead of us shying away and blaming any other person for our responsibilities and our failures, we need to accept them and be deliberate, because Nigeria is also sitting on that gunpowder, so that anything happens, the youths are a tool for anybody who wants to either use them positively or negatively. But most times, it's the negative use that is easier. And so we need to get deliberate. And that's why I commend you for what you want to do with teachers. starting with teachers is a great way to start using their influence to get the youth to start seeing differently. Because if we don't do it, South Africa will be a small fry to what will happen to us. So let's not say the government didn't do all this. We need to all get together and start making every day Youth Skills Day, not just on the 15th of July, especially for Africa.
I hear you. And this is very instructive. And so to our African audience, somehow we've narrowed around 2 countries, but essentially this is an African problem. The strength methodology, it's been taken from different colors, creed, and convictions. But there's a common denominator. A discovery of your strengths, leads to a self-awareness. And once you come to a state of awareness, you're able to appreciate, all right, the strength of others. You're able to see, almost like Mr. George said, see through the lens of your own strength. That, okay, I'm uniquely wired in this way. So when the other person is talking, you're also able to calm down to also understand that that person has a point of view and is using a different lens to see things. And, until we start to understand that, so sometimes I laugh when I see arguments that are going on end in the family front, in the parliament, in the executive. Across board, and the other person is talking. We've been speaking now for about 50 minutes plus, and it's been great and an amazing time with Mr. George Enema. Coincidentally, today is the World Skills Day, and we've talked on the issues around the youth development. We've moved in around that area as to the skills that would determine the future of work. We've also delved into a bit of the nation building and politics. We also meandered our way to the educational terrain, where we started to hinge on having people to become competitive rather than to become competitive. But essentially, this discussion is centered around strengths. So, Mr. George, it's been an amazing time. I wish we could take this on further. Do you have any final words, okay, for the African youth with regards to skills? Do you have any final words to the African, community with regards to strengths and its discovery? And I will roll it up from there. Thank you, sir.
So what I'll say, like I said earlier on, capacity building is beyond just going to the classroom. Let's evolve a more productive society. I like what Strengths Africa is doing.
Great.
Creating bouquets that will address different areas. Let's get together, collaborate more, and learn to see the opportunities that we have. It is enormous that Africa has a lot of value yet untapped. And that is why we need to get our youth to be more productive. The quick means is not really the right means, but we have to be deliberate. So guys, let's go conquer the world because Africa has all the potentials.
Well, I love that. It says, let's go conquer the world. Africa has a lot of potentials. Ladies and gentlemen, today has been an amazing time. I don't know what your own view is, but I have had a great time. I'd like to say thank you to Mr. George Enema for your great, insights, your perspective to issues, and with the eloquence to which you also were able to communicate with us. No wonder you have communication as one of your top 5 strengths. We'd like to say thank you so much. If we're to pay you in dollars, we probably will be having to break the bank. But thank you for honoring our invitation, and we hope that we can, call on you at some other time. Please, technical, can you display Mr. George's details in case we have people, particularly around the youth, that wants your expertise or your guidance as to how they might discover their strengths, how they can, develop their strengths, and how they can deploy their strengths to unlock truly their potentials. Technical, please can we have on display Mr. George's contact. I say thank you for the audience. Always a beautiful, beautiful, feeling for me, knowing that. And for those that will be watching the replay, either on Facebook or on YouTube, even as it's being streamed live, we hope you could also get more people to get into this discussion. And if you have any feedback or recommendations on how we can take this, to truly becoming Africa's choice show as to strength discussion, please send us a mail on info at Strength Africa, one word, Strength, STRENGTH, Africa, AFRICA.com. Technical, you could type that out, but all the best, all the rest. I'd like to say, Mr. George, thank you. I think we're having some glitches, but however it is, I'd like to say thank you for coming on board. I'm sure whilst the replay is being set, your details will be properly displayed. Just not to keep you beyond necessary. I like to say it's been a good time. I will be counting down to 5 to end this show for today. So tune in next week, and I'm counting down to 5 to end today's show. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and bye. Thank you, Mr. George.